Hey folks, Casey here with Two Tankards. Welcome back to our video series on the Queen Bee CNC build. This is video number 5. We're looking at the Y-axis plate assembly with the nut blocks. We're going to assemble those and then we're going to install both Y-axis onto the spoil board frame, so stay tuned. The first thing we need to do is install the lock nuts on the back of the blocks. I do this by inserting one of the bolts and threading on the lock nut just a couple of threads. Then I use both of my thumbs to press the nut into the block and then remove the bolt. Once both of the blocks are ready, I flip the plate over and I install the nut blocks on the back. Make sure you leave the bolt a little loose for the Acme screw later on. I repeat this process for the other plate as well. This next step is pretty easy. I lay the plates onto the bearing on the Y-axis channel. There really is no method to this madness, but I found it easier for me to get 4 bolts into one bearing first. Then I could easily slide the other bearings around under the plate to line up the 4 holes on each bearing. I install all 16 bolts and leave them a little loose for easier install of the X gantry later in another video. You'll really be glad you did this. Of course, I repeat this same process on the other Y-axis channel and we prepare for the next step. Now that the bearings are installed, we can go ahead and tighten the rails on the 4080C channel. The idea here is to use the bearings to align the rails as I slide the carriage down the length of the Y-axis. Take your time on this as it is critical to overall accuracy later on. I first slide the carriage all the way to one end so I can still see one of the bolt holes. I tighten the first bolt down. Then I tighten the bolt directly on the other side of the carriage. I simply repeat this process, moving the carriage on the rails a few holes at a time. After you have done all the bolts and they're tight, then repeat the process on the second Y-axis channel. For this step, I had to get one of my kids to help as it is impossible to maneuver both ends of the C channel at the same time. It's big and heavy. To do this, locate the 4 T-nuts on the channel that had the end caps on the spoil board frame. I slid 2 of the T-nuts out of the way and slide the other 2 T-nuts all the way to the end caps. Now simply slide the Y-axis onto the rail and line up the nuts. Then use a screwdriver to slide the other T-nuts into place and install the rest of the bolts. Alright folks, so the 2 Y rails are assembled. Our next step is to install the Acme lead screws in them, the drive screws. But for right now, I just wanted you to get an idea of the massive size of this footprint. Again, this is a Queen Bee Pro 1500. It is huge. I am really going to enjoy this. You can see the linear bearings move really well. I left the plates loose as per the instructions so we could get the Acme screws in there. And that is our next step, so stay tuned. Alright folks, that's it for video number 5. Our Y-axis rails are now assembled to our spoil board frame. Next we'll move on to video number 6 where we install the Acme lead screws in both of the Y rails. And as always, if you like my content, please like and subscribe and we'll see you on the next one.